this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. A bit of kitchen time. I'm not going to film all of this, but both of these plants got pulled out while watering today. This is the Odontoglossum naevium that's finished its 2 spikes. It has got another one going on here, which I looked at this morning, and I noticed that in here I've got some scale. You probably can't, well, you might be able to see them, yeah, but there is scale on this plant. Plus this is due for a repot. It needs revitalizing somehow. It's just not growing as well as it ought to be. And I think what's happened is that the newer growths have come out at the top of the plant and the roots have failed to get down into the media. So the new growths aren't growing as well as they should do. So I'm going to get it out of the pot and have a look at it. And this sad character over here, you're not going to like this. This is my Epidendrum Comet Valley orange star, and it's dying. And I don't know why. Now again, this has got some scale on it near the base of the plant, but it's not ridiculous, and a bit of scale on a plant like this, of this size, should not take it down. So there's something going very wrong with this plant, and at the moment I haven't got a flipping clue what it is. So let's get it out of the pot and see what's going on, because there's something just fundamentally wrong here. Could be wrong media, not suited, not happy, didn't like it, sulked after its repot, yes. It should have recovered by now. It's just not growing, and it's losing leaves, and there's no replacement leaves coming. So it's coming out of the pot to see what's going on, and I've got a feeling when I get this out of the pot there's just no roots. Well, sometimes I guess like that and I'm wrong, but this time I'm right. This smells bad. So the media's gone off. Now why, I don't know, because it wasn't repotted ages ago, not by any means. I believe it's pieces. It was put in as pieces. Well, first job, let me get these spikes off, because they're of no use. It's virtually finished blooming now, and the plant's got so weak now, the spikes are just going to weaken it even further by leaving them on. So the last few flowers that there are getting sacrificed until I can find out what's going on with the plant. So I mean, if you take that piece there are some green leaves, but it's lost a lot of its lower leaves, and there is some scale, but it's not dramatic. That's not enough to kill a plant like this. You know, tiny little young Tulumnia maybe. You can, well, it's just so that you get to see. Where's my camera? You can hopefully see some on that leaf, but that would leave some marks on that leaf. It wouldn't kill the plant, not by any means. So what's going on? There are signs of some new growths. I don't know how many pieces I've got here. It's difficult to work out whether they're joined or just tangled roots. But there are scale in around the base in quite large numbers. Now it is possible they're taking the new roots off, but on this piece there are some new roots, but these are all dead. These are all gone, completely gone. Now these grow 2 ways, both at the same time. They will push out young growths from part way up the cane, so you could call those cakeys, because that's what they really are. But they normally are vigorous enough that the roots come down the plant and get into the media. They will also shoot from the base, and this is doing neither. It's not growing at all as a plant, but that's a piece that I can hopefully do something with. What I'm going to do for the scale, I could spray it with systemic, but what I'm actually going to do initially is I'm going to spray the whole plant with the alcohol. Yeah, that will dry very fast and hopefully kill an awful lot of what's there. I'm then going to spray the whole plant once that alcohol's dry. That won't take long at all. It's hot today, I got a flower in me beer. Oh dear. Still, it didn't drink much. It's hot today and it's cool drink time. It really is. So that's going to have to have a hell of a root hack. These are just gone. But there are some, just a few. And what have I got there? 3 canes. They've all bloomed. So effectively those canes are now useless. They're not going to bloom again. But if I get them cleaned up, look, there's a nice big fat mealybug there. So I'm wondering whether it's mealybugs and scale. Well, that's not scale, that's dead mealybug. It was live. Not anymore. What have we got here? These are pieces. So now if you look at this piece here, let's get that flower spike off. That was the flower spike that actually branched out. And if you look up here, you know, I've got a tiny little plantlet here, along with another giant adult mealybug. That is a big one. I don't know whether you can see that on the end of my thumb. That's a big one. Was. So I've got a tiny little plantlet up here with some tiny little roots. But it's failing. The growing tip's failed. So even that's not making it. Beginning to wonder whether this has got something, some sort of lurgy inside the plant that's just taking it down. And the bugs aren't helping. But that's got nothing at all. So that might end up getting discarded. Now this piece here has got some green leaves. Again, these canes are useless now, apart from supplying a bit of green to supply some photosynthesis. This was a new growth, it's just failed. Well, by cleaning up the bugs, this little bit might grow. Just take the base off, stick that in some media, that might grow. This bit's useless, that won't ever do anything. What have we got here? It's another tiny little piece. Now that's the first sign of a new growth near the base of the plant that I've seen. But again, this is a difficult plant to plant. If you look here, the stem goes up and then it obviously branched out at some point right up here. Well, if I try and get some of these roots in, which they're not good but they don't look bad compared with some of this, which is just rubbish, if I try and get those roots in the pot, then that's going to be buried. The media's definitely gone. I'm reasonably sure I know why the media's gone. Because this hasn't been growing, it's been staying wet too long. Yeah, because the roots aren't drinking anything, so it's just staying wet. There's no reason for it to dry out. It's not getting any help from the plant at all. So, massive clean-up. God, I've still got washing up in the sink here. Getting lazy. It's the hot weather, you know. So we'll get my dinner out of the sink. Oh, well prepared, aren't I? So, first job, clean off bugs. Absolute first job. I'll stick that, no, I'm not going to bother. Tiny little pieces are just a nuisance, quite honestly. So we'll see what we can do. But that's that one. And if this doesn't work, it's going to die, quite honestly. I've never seen a plant go downhill that fast that is an adult plant that's blooming. It could have just bloomed itself to death, I suppose. Without the support of a root system, those blooms would have taken everything out of those canes, because it's not feeding itself. So maybe I should have taken the blooms off earlier. Anyway, that's that one. This one, the bug related problem on this one won't be anywhere near as major. I think this is just a... Same again. The root system's gone. Now this one, this could have been put in large bark and it's wrong for the plant. Perhaps this needs smaller or medium bark with some moss, because these roots are dead. Very few, and most of the live ones you can see are coming out the top of the plant. Oh, I just found another little trap spike. It's trying to escape from a leaf. Come on, out you come. You stay in there, you'll lose your buds. I think they've been squashed anyway by the sheer weight. So this needs breaking up in some shape or form. I'm trying to get some new roots to grow. The new roots are going to be where the new growths are. So that was a natural point there. I'm just trying to find a place where there's some roots growing to work from. And then I can work away from those. So that's nearly all old growths, and they're shriveled. They haven't been hydrating, got no roots. Can't hydrate without roots. Just a few sticking out the top. Now I've got one new growth there with a tiny little flower spike. That's the bit to try and save, and yes, there are new roots. That's what I'm after. No point planting that. So what we've got here is signs of new roots, and that is, it is attached. It's got a flower spike. That obviously needs to come off now. A weak plant, there's no point in leaving flower spikes on. Right, I've got that old bulb can come off, because otherwise I'd have to pot it too low. Now what I've got there is two shriveled back bulbs, a relatively new growth that was attempting to bloom that isn't shriveled, and at the base there are a few new roots growing. These roots are dry, they're not dead, and there's little shoots in places, so that's a piece I can work with. I don't want to bury old leaves in the media, so that can come off. See, there's little roots desperately trying to find something to grow into here, and failing miserably. So we'll see what we can do, but that's a piece I can work with. So I'm just taking as many sheaths off around this latest growth as I can, because if, yeah, see, there's a little root trapped in there pointing upwards. This has just been too dry, I think. Consequence of getting the media wrong. I'll have that one. Can't blame that on anyone else, can I? I can try, I suppose, but it's not going to work. Right, I've got a piece there that I can work with. That's one. Now what else have we got? Another little new growth here. That's got a flower spike on. That'll have to come off if I keep it. Have we got new roots at the base? It's not even very well attached. Almost as though it's starting to rot. Right, keep looking. I've got a growth here. I can see another split down the middle, which I'm going to do now. I want to get as much of the old plant off as possible. It's what I call rejuvenating. There comes a point where if a plant's not hydrating very well, it's not getting its feed either. And what it's trying to do is spread the load over the whole plant. And these old bulbs are good for nothing. So some of the energy, the little bit of energy it's getting through the poor root system, is going into bulbs that are of no use anymore. They're shriveled, they're not doing anything for the plant. There's another split there, whether I like it or not. Ugh. Right. Janky old bulb there. Now what have we got? That's a workable piece. That will recover. Got a relatively new growth and new roots. New root sign at the base. Some sheaths to come off, which have probably got some roots tucked in them. So the thing is, if roots can sense moisture, they'll head for it. Well, the bottom of the plant's not hydrating very well. They don't fight their way down very well. They try and hide in the sheaths. Well, that's a little piece, but it's a piece that has a relatively new growth on, and two back bulbs again, and signs of new roots. I think this just needs to go in a better media. And there's also some root branches going on here, so that's that can go down into media, pending the new ones getting going a bit. So there was a broken rhizome there. You know me when I see a bit of rhizome. Just checking for the old pink stuff. don't seem to have any of that. Now here's another. This piece has a relatively new growth on the end here. Sheaths off. See the roots head up through the sheath? There they are, look, pointing skywards. They haven't got the energy to fight out of the sheath and get down into the media. And that's probably because the media was drying too quick. These are assumptions, but you have to apply a bit of logic. If it was happy in the large bark, it would have grown, wouldn't it? And it hasn't. So it wasn't. That's a piece I can work with. Not got much of a root system hanging off of it. But it's got signs of new ones at the base here again. That may well shoot out. So again, that is a bit small, but the new growth on here is larger than before, than the others. So whenever I see a pale patch, I always look inside the leaf. See, I was expecting to find scale there. And there's the little yellow mark. And there inside is the single adult scale. There. Gone. As I say, I haven't treated these yet. This is their favourite place to get, is where there was an old flower spike that you've cut. And inside there, behind that flower spike, they love that place. They can get right down in there and you can't see them. And then they really get going and take out that whole section of the plant. Anyway, that's plantable. So that's 3 bits I've got so far. I'm not happy with this little bit. What have we got? See, there's a relatively new growth. It's gonna fall apart again. This is the growth I'm after, with the newer leaves on, and it looks like it's come out from this side heading that way, not off of that really old manky bulb. So that can come off. Now what have we got? Now we've got a piece. Got any new roots showing through those sheaths? Yep, yet again there are new roots at the base. I think this is just wrong media. Media drying too fast, too much air for a change. I'm always saying you need lots of air around your media, around your roots, but this is obviously one I think that would prefer to stay a bit moister. So this will have probably a mix of medium and small bark and some moss. Well, let's get the base of the plant nice and moist with fresh media and get these new roots going. That's a lovely new root coming out there, just the one. It is a bit lonely, but that's yet another piece I can work with. And this new root should come from here, this latest growth. Again, it's got 2 back bulbs. That one, that's attached firmly enough, so that's another piece. That's 4 pieces I've got out of it. Now what do I do with this? Is this worth keeping? This is the bit that's got the scale bad. So that's already been weakened. I've always said that with scale and other bugs, you've got strong, healthy plants, they'll find the weak bit. I mean, it's all very well Rick saying, you know, big strong plants don't get bugs, they go somewhere else. Well, in my place, they've got nowhere else to go. So once they're in there, I'm stuck with them. They have to be killed by hook or by crook, one way or the other. I got a feeling if I plant that little growth's going to rot. It's not, it's wobbly on its connection and it's incredibly weak. We won't bother, we've got more than enough pieces, there's nothing there worth keeping. Right, so that's the what's in my pot bit. The next bit, quite honestly, is too tedious to bother filming. This is the chatty bit, this is the talky bit, yeah? This is the bit I think that is of interest to people. Lots of people have got to go through this. They've got to take a plant out of a pot and think, why isn't this growing? What have I done wrong? Well, it's not always what you've done wrong. Sometimes it was the shop or the nursery that got it wrong and you're dealing with the consequences. Now obviously on both of these plants the bugs are not helping, so I'll deal with those. But quite honestly, it's a matter now of cleaning the plants up, yeah? Oncidium, I might select one piece to mount, and all of the other pieces are going to get squashed in the same pot, in the smallest pot I can get them in. That theory has worked well over the last year and a half. Yeah, when I've had poorly Oncidiums that are not happy, putting them in a big pot doesn't do them any good at all. Putting them in the tightest pot I can get them in, and within quite a short space of time I'm getting powerful, strong root systems growing. I can't really explain that, but that's down to what's happened for me in my environment, and it's working. So I'm going to cram that in the smallest pot I can get. I haven't quite made my mind up what to do with the encyclia yet. I don't want to throw that away. I don't want to give up on it because the flowers are gorgeous. But what I'll do is clean the plants up, decide what I'm going to do it, and then I'll show you what I've done and talk about it at the end. Watching me stuff things in pots and pushing media in, you've seen that so many times, you know. You can all do that in your sleep, same as I can. So I'll be back towards the end of the session, and I'll see you then. Okay, mammoth session, I must admit. Basically what I've done is all the naevium pieces have gone into a single pot, and this is based on history. When we did the Miltonia sunset and found that it had fusarium, I ended up with 3 pieces, each with 2 back bulbs and a new growth, and they got crammed in the smallest pot I could get them in. And you've seen on videos subsequently that that pot is now absolutely jammed full of roots. So I'm applying that principle to this one. The only thing I've done slightly different with this one is I've potted it deeper, yeah, but near the top is quite large bark, so it shouldn't stay soggy round the base. But I need to get some roots going, and a lot of the roots are right at the base of the plant, and some of them are, you know, sticking upwards and sideways. They're not going downwards. So by potting it a little deep, that should get the roots going down into the media. And if the top looks like it's staying too wet, once those roots start heading down into the pot, I can just tease some of that media out so that the base can dry off if it needs to. I think this one needs a lot more moisture than it's been getting. So that's the theory on that one. This one, I have several theories. First of all, in suitable climates, these grow in the ground. People put them in their gardens and they grow into a bush. Now, I've also seen them growing under such conditions where they're getting too much sun and they're quite frazzled, but they're still alive and still growing and blooming their heads off. You can see a lot of bug damage on this plant. Theory number 1 is that bug damage makes little holes in the plant. That's an entry point for a fungal infection. So I got a feeling this plant got something inside of it that it couldn't cope with. So I'm going to give it a go with the fungicide, systemic, so that it can get into the plant. And if that has happened, hopefully it will sort that out. So bug's gone. And with this one, again, the theory is that this wasn't getting hydrated. So now some of that was because the roots had died off. It objected to being repotted. There's some roots on these couple of pieces, not many. Some are down in the pot. Some are now touching the media rather than being aerial. I'm just hoping it will pull through. With this one, I'd give that 50-50. There's something seriously wrong with this plant, and I have a feeling that as a consequence of the bugs, it's internal and it's not just root related. So fungicide, systemic, into the plant. Hopefully that will sort out whatever's wrong, if that is the problem. And I've had to strap it to get it to stay upright, but it's quite firm in the pot, and it's now got a smaller pot relative to the size. I'd like to have got it in one size down, but I've now run out of that size pot. That's the next smallest one I've got. I need some more of these. Where I normally get my supplies, Peter White, it jumps. He goes from 7 centimetres up to 12. The 2 sizes in between have gone. He hasn't got any. And looking on the internet, they're not that easy to find. It just seems that people either like little tiny ones or great big ones, and the ones in between are just not around so much. They'll come back. I'll find them eventually. But yeah, so that's what I've done with those 2. They're now gonna, this one especially, is now gonna go in quite a shady spot. May have been just getting too much light. You have to remember this isn't a species, it's a hybrid. I don't, you know, the makeup of it might not have the sun lovers in it. You know, not all epidendrums are bright light plants. So anyway, that's what I've done, and now we'll put them both in a shady spot. This one in a cool shady spot, Odontoglossum, yeah, and this one just in a shady spot, and hopefully some roots will push on. We will see. Updates will follow as usual. Now, this is the end of a silly period for me. Yesterday morning, I got woken up with noises along the lines of row, 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 row. I thought, what the hell is the matter with that cat? And in the end, I thought, I'm going to have to get up and see what's wrong. And I got up, and there he is, sitting in the bedroom doorway with the most enormous rat in his mouth. And I'm not kidding you, a good sized rat. Not a giant one, but not a baby one either. Luckily it was dead. So I then had to get up, take that off of him, and throw it somewhere where he couldn't find it again. I have my places. Then I needed to go to the loo, as one does when one gets out of bed. And do you think I could get back to sleep? I tried and tried. So in the end I got up at 4:45, still pitch dark. So I had an incredibly long day yesterday. And then last night we had the heat. And it's not so easy to sleep. You tend to toss and turn when it's a bit too hot and sticky in bed. So I didn't have a good night's sleep last night either. And I've had to water all my pots today, and I really should have watered and fed my mounts, because as you know, we gave them a hell of a flush. That was the last thing they had. They needed some food today, and I just couldn't do it. Didn't run out of energy. So they got a spray. And that will hold them till tomorrow, when maybe I'll get a decent night's sleep tonight. So yeah, very tired at the moment. Pottering around in the kitchen doing this sort of thing is not tiring. I find it a little bit therapeutic almost. It's almost like a remedy, I suppose you could call it. But I don't find it tiring, even though I'm on my feet, because I'm pottering. There's nothing done in a rush, nothing in a hurry, everything calm. So now I'm going to sit down in the chair. What is it now? 4:30. I will probably fall asleep and wake up and miss me tea time. I'll have a late tea tonight. I know if I sit down I'm going to fall asleep. So I might have to just stay on my feet for a bit longer to make sure I have a reasonable meal tonight. And then I can fall asleep in the chair. You know, put something really interesting on, like the news. I'd be asleep in 2 minutes, wouldn't I? Huh. Anyway, see you next time. Enough of my woes. Bye for now.